Hey everybody, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well today. My name is Dave McKenzie. Welcome to Beyond the Beat Music Studio. All right, so today we're going to be doing a little, lesson together. Hopefully, you've got your guitar. We're going to do a little lesson on beginning the acoustic guitar. This is our second lesson in this series, and it's going to be really a good one because you're going to learn how to play a little scale. You're going to learn how to play that scale and move it up the neck. Use the pick. You're going to learn how to do some strumming, maybe play a couple of riffs, and I'm going to teach you 4 chords. So there's going to be a lot of information in this video, so hopefully you can sort of rewatch it if it's difficult. But, beginning the guitar is maybe the hardest thing, and once you get a few songs like this under your belt, it gets a lot easier. So I'm going to put a lot of care into this video and try to really give you the information in a way that you can use it and practice, and hopefully it's really fun, and hopefully we can get to the heart of it. All right, so grab yourself a guitar, maybe like a steel string acoustic guitar like this one would be really nice for this tune because we're doing Knocking on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan. Guitar pick and, a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and let's get into it, all right? Okay, hi everybody, how's it going? So I hope you have your pick, or you can actually use your thumb if you'd like to play this first exercise. But I'm going to focus on the pick. So what I want you to do is just grab your pick. I sort of showed you how to hold it in the initial video, but I'm going to demonstrate again. So you hold the pick generally sort of as an extension of your first little knuckle on your index finger, and your hand should be relatively flat. It shouldn't be out like protruding like this, or like in a like a really weird sort of, anything that sort of puts tension in your hand. So it does feel a little bit awkward at first to hold the pick like this, but it really does become comfortable over time. So I want you to just grab your pick, any old way really, it'll settle. But what we're gonna do is we're just gonna play on the low E string 4 times, down, up, all right? And then you switch to your A string, and then you're going to go down, up, down, up. So the low E string is considered the 6th string. So if I, and this is down, it's a little confusing. So this is your higher string in pitch. So if I'm saying I'm playing up, I'm heading up towards that string, but really we're going down in relation to the floor, right? So don't get confused by that. Sounds a little confusing, doesn't it? But shouldn't be over time. So on your low E string, we're going to play down, up, down, up. And on your A string, we're going to play down, up, 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 down, up. Back to the B. Down, up, 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 down, up. All right, great. So that's a really good exercise because it really helps you get your right hand sort of in touch with where all the strings are. You can speed up that exercise and play it a little bit faster over time, and to come up with your own ways of keeping it fun. You could put on a drum beat or something and play along with it and try to develop more speed. One of the things that I like to do is once you get comfortable with that, you can skip strings. Down, up, skip the A, go back to the A, skip the D, go back to the D, skip the G, go back to the G, skip the B. All right, and then you can go backwards. Sort of messed it up at the end there, but it's all right. You get the idea. Sort of, you go up a string, back, or you go up 2, back 1, up 2, back 1. Now the next exercise that I'm going to get you to do, just to get warmed up with your right hand, is I'd like you to mute the strings with your left hand. Now just touch the strings really gently, but make sure that like the soft part of your hands, the soft part of your fingers are touching the strings, but not fretting them. Like don't clasp onto the strings, just lightly touch all the strings so that it should just sound like a muted, dull sound like that. So it's not very, I don't know, it's not very unpleasant to listen to. It should be quite pleasant. So, and then what I want you to do is just play along with me. Down, up, down, up, down. And you should really try to make sure that your pick is pretty loose in your hand, and that it shouldn't be coming down on a weird angle, because these strings are wound strings, right? So if you're coming on a weird angle, it makes a bad sound. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to strike. Actually, in fact, you can start off by just let the pick just trickle over the strings like this. Just get a feel for that, and then get a feel for going up. That's a little bit harder. So notice that my hand is sort of leaning in the direction that, so it's letting the pick trickle nicely over the strings, and then I'm sort of positioning my hand. So if you watch a really nice rhythm player or someone that strums really well, their hand's sort of doing this. It's not gripping it and just ripping it. It's you're sort of angling the pick so that it can trickle over the strings nicely. So mute the strings with your left hand, and then just get this feel going. You know, you can, it's really important to have a metronome or some sort of drum beat. So I'm going to put on a little groove here. And I'm just going to get my hand sort of jamming with that, okay? So try to keep up with me. So I'm going to count us in. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And try to eventually be relaxed while you're doing this. I know at first the pick's going to be wiggling around and moving around in your hand, but eventually you'll learn how to sort of balance it and control it. And when it wiggles out of place, you can sort of shimmy it back into place. So you're trying to make sure that you're getting the pick to strum across all the strings evenly. Common mistake with beginners is they're like hitting these low strings so hard and maybe not even hitting the high strings very much. So try to maybe we'll start like this. You know, and make sure you're evenly hitting all the strings without holding too tightly to your pick, right? It should be pretty relaxed here. Okay, so I'm going to strum again with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down. So we're strumming eighth notes here, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can also notice that I'm hitting it a little bit harder with the snare drums. You can hear the snare hit, and that's on the 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and a lot of music has that feel. So you'll notice a lot of acoustic strum patterns have that feel where 2 and 4 are emphasized. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, good. So you can do that on your own. That takes, you know, there's a lot of practice involved to get that working really well. So definitely get a metronome or a little drum machine, or you know, you can get a beat on YouTube or whatever. We have some on our YouTube channel. So if you want to just play along with those, and just practice strumming and picking, you know, get that down up picking going. So the next thing I'm going to show you here is a little riff. All right. So riffs are really great because they sound like music right off the bat. A riff, what a riff actually is it's like a repeated pattern, but it's, you know, used from a scale or something, but it's like, it's definitely a little melody, but it's a cooler way of saying melody, I guess. Maybe that's what a riff is. I don't know. So here's a riff that I use so often to teach what people young and old, and it's nice because it's on the low E string, and it's sort of recognizable. I guess people don't anymore, but then they like it's anyways. It's called Peter Gunn. You play. You can just play downstrokes if you want, and you play. So you play your low string twice, down, down, second fret, down, and then open, third fret with your second finger, and then open, and then fifth fret with your pinky, and then to your ring finger. Okay. So I know that might seem, you know, a lot of people want to just use their index finger to play the whole riff because they're more comfortable. But this is a good opportunity to get all your fingers firing. So you play it open, open, second fret, open, third fret, open, fifth fret, fourth fret. And it'll sound like this eventually, but I'm going to get you there. Don't worry, but it'll sound... riff on another string too. Right, so it's actually really fun to play. So that's the riff. I'm going to help you again. So it's open, open, and then your first finger plays the second fret on the low E string, second, open, and then the third fret with your second finger here, and then open, and then fifth fret with your pinky, and then fourth fret with your third finger. And it's sped up, should sound like... And you could even put a drum beat going or a metronome. So... So I should mention that your right hand is just sort of on automatic eighth note. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Right? So that's the riff. That's a really great one. So go away with that. Practice it over and over again until it's just totally consistent. You want to just be like a train, just chugging down the track, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Right? So enjoy that, and I'm going to be back in 1 second here with the next part of the video. Now the next section of this beginner series here for lesson 2 will be the E minor pentatonic scale. All right? So the E minor pentatonic scale can be played really comfortably on the guitar in the open position here. So you can take your pick, and I'm going to walk you through the scale right now, so get ready. All right, so we're going to start with the low E string, this one right here. Right, you just strike that note, and then with your third finger, your ring finger, place your ring finger on the tip, the very extreme tip, right here on the third fret of the low E string, and strike that note. And that's a G. And then strike the open A string. And then you take your second finger on your left hand, place it on the second fret, and strike that note. That's a B. And then you play your open D string. And then you take your second finger and you place your finger down on that note, and that's an E. So that's the whole scale. E, G, A, B, D, E. And that's the sound of it. Play right, you can play all kinds of riffs with the scale. So the real trick to these scales is to really practice them so much that you don't even have to think about putting your fingers down like it. You want to get to the point that you can make music with them. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated with scales and feel like they're a little bit boring and maybe like useless or whatever, and they just want to strum chords and sing along with them. And that's really fair, right? Like you know, if that's what motivates you, is it's good. But I think that if you really invest a little bit of time and get the scale so that it's really second nature, then you can start making music with it, and the guitar becomes a totally different thing at that point. It's really special how it really unfolds for you. So that's E minor pentatonic in 1 octave. So open on the E, 3rd fret on the E string, open on the A string, 2nd fret, open on the D string, and then 2nd fret. Now the scale can happen again now in a 2nd octave here in the same vicinity. So we're going to start there on the 2nd fret of the D string, E, and then you play open G, and then 2nd fret is an A note, and then open B, and then 3rd fret is a D note, and then open E. So you notice that sounds the same, right? But it's higher in pitch than the first. So you can practice this whole thing together. So I'm going to sort of play it with a drum beat for you, and if you can keep up with it, great. If not, don't worry. I'm going to do a whole warm-up series on this scale, and we'll move it up the neck. So you can look for those other scale videos. I don't want to go into too much detail here, but I expect you to sort of learn this E minor pentatonic enough so that you can play it on your own and play it with a metronome and practice, you know, always be striving to play it using down-up picking. So I'm going to play it. I don't expect you to play along with this, but so down, up, 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 So we're going to move right along to the chords, to Knocking on Heaven's Door. So the first chord you're going to have to learn for the song is a G chord. I use my 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then open D string, open G, open B, and then I use my pinky on the high E. Now when I first started playing G chord, I did not play the G chord like this. I played it with these 3 fingers, and I found it easier. Now I find it easier to play it with these 3 because my hand is just in a better position to actually do these switches to the different chords that we're going to use. So I'm going to leave it up to you. You can use these 3 fingers, your 2nd on the 3rd fret of the low E string, your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string. I find that awkward, but it takes a while before your ring finger and your pinky feel strong, which is another really good reason to be playing, you know, scales, because it actually brings these other fingers into the mix and makes them feel, you know, well, they just not makes them feel, but they actually get stronger. So they get a little bit more independence with the hand, and placing the chords down and switching chords is a really big challenge. Like where you're at right now, learning how to begin, sort of like beginning guitar is a big part, in the largest part, is just switching chords. So this first chord, G, is the first chord of Knocking on Heaven's Door. So you put this G chord down, and then you have a strum, right? The strum pattern for it is down, down, up, and then you switch to the D chord. Now there shouldn't be a pause there. For a while you're going to have a pause there. So it goes G, 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 D. See how I just sort of, you know, made that switch in time. So because the beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4. Now D, for the D chord, on your 3rd string here, the G string, your index finger plays the 2nd fret on that G string, all right? Your 2nd finger plays the 2nd fret on the high E string. Now really get right up on your tips, all right? And your 3rd finger plays the B string on the 3rd fret. Now get your fingers right up on the tips and try to pluck these chords 1 note at a time, just to make sure that you have the chord solid, all right? It's really important that you have these chords solid and clear. And what you want to do is you want to apply pressure evenly. Now the other thing I want to mention is you want to use your fingertips and you want to be close to the fret. Not close to this fret behind, but close to the fret that you're pinning the string against. If you look closely, what you're doing with these chords is you're actually pinning the guitar string right to the metal part. And if you're back here, you're going to get buzzy sounds, and it just doesn't sound really good. So what you want to do, and plus it's harder, you have to press twice as hard when you're back here in the fret. So get your fingertip, get close to the metal bar, like the little fret. These metal things are frets, by the way, just so that that's clear. And you want to get your tips right down, and then you want to be able to pluck through the strings one at a time. And then once you know that they're all ringing clearly, then you can strum. Right? So for Knocking on Heaven's Door, there's the first switch. It's G, 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 D, 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 D. And then you switch to an A minor. The nice thing about this part of the song is you get to stay on there for 2 measures. So you do the A minor twice. A, 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 A. And then the way you play this chord is you take your second finger and you play it on the D string, the 4th string from the top here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You play it on the D string on the 2nd fret, on the very tip, right? Make sure you're right on the very tip of the fingers, not the pad. I'm going to show you here. So this is the pad of your finger. It's very mushy, and it's very difficult to fret a string with the pad. So you want, if you look closely, probably see that there's little lines right in the fingertips, and you'll get calluses eventually. So you really want to get right up on the extreme tip. It just is so much easier if you learn to do that, and it just will be so much more accurate. So, so 2nd fret on the D string with your 2nd finger, 2nd fret on the G string with your 3rd finger, and then 1st fret on the B string with your 1st finger. And you can strum from the 5th string down, so the A all the way down. Okay? So the strum pattern that I'm using is down, rest, down, up, down, up, down, rest, down, up, down, up, down, rest, down, up, down, up, down, rest, down, up, down. So that's really important for this song. So we do that over each chord. When we get to the A minor, we do that twice. So we go G, 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 D, 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 A minor, A minor, A minor, A, A minor, A minor, G, 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 D, 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 D. And then we go to another chord in place of the A minor, and the second time through we go to a C chord. So you put your 3rd finger on the A string on the 3rd fret, and your 2nd finger on the D string on the 2nd fret, and then you play an open G, and then your 1st finger plays the 1st fret of the B string, and you try to leave that open E string. So it should sound like this. This is a tricky chord to get early on. It's a C chord, and you have to stretch over 3 frets. It should sound like that, all right? So don't be discouraged. This is going to take time. In a way, learning your first song and getting the chord switches in time is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do on the guitar. There obviously are harder things that happen later, but this is a real hurdle, and you need to have a lot of fight in you to get over this first section just to be able to switch, all right? You have to play every day and get the switches happening. So for Knocking on Heaven's Door, the structure is really easy in a way. It has 2 patterns. So the first pattern is G, the second pattern is almost identical. It's G, D, and rather than play the A minor, you switch to the C chord. And then it goes back to the G, D, A minor, A minor again, G, D, C. And it just keeps on cycling through that. Mama, take this badge off of me. I can't use it anymore. like the pattern is all the same for the verses and the choruses in this song. So the structure is really manageable, and it is going to be tough, I know. And but you can just, you know, if you can just see the lake through the trees on your little portage here and get to it, you're going to really enjoy it. So stick with it. Practice playing the chords one note at a time, so that you know that they're all crystal clear, and then strum over that, right? And don't grip your pick too much. Don't, you know, you want it to sort of trickle over the strings and not on that weird angle. And you know, keep on going back to the basics. Keep on going back to your scale. Play your riff. And practice strumming the song. Actually, it's the strum pattern first, right? Down, down, up, down, up, 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 down. Right? Just get that going. So those are, I guess that's it for this lesson. That's lesson one, or actually lesson one was just getting ready. So but this is kind of lesson one in a way, because it's the first song that you learn. So keep on